and this isn't to pick on anybody, but there is a woman in the room right now who's 35 years old. Okay, she's 35 years old. You do realize that you can't escape age. She knows it. She's 35. You can't escape, right? There is no escape for any of you. You are going to hit that number. And do you honestly think that you're going to look the same that you do now or better? You don't think that that's slightly delusional? Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Do you think that if the average, 25-year-old millionaire had to select between the 35-year-old or the young women who were here, from the 35-year-old's perspective, which one do you think they would select for?
I think they would probably go for somebody that's younger.
Yeah.
Because they want young, that is a thing. I do see that. They've always got a young girl on their arm, and it's more of a trophy kind of thing. It does make sense. I mean, at my age,
it's not just a trophy thing, it's an attraction thing. You can't be with people you're not attracted to, right?
No.
You can imagine that people, there has to be attraction for there to be a relationship. Right, that's at least, I think, a thing we can all agree on. You got to be attracted to who the person is you're with. So it's if it is the case that they would select for all of the other women who are in the room, what you're saying is that the men would be more attracted to the other women in the room. It's not a dunk or even trying to beat up on you. It's just pointing out the distinction between at 35, 40 years old, you're not going to look anywhere like you do right now. All right, and that's a delusional take to think otherwise. Does that make sense?
But Kim Kardashian and Megan Fox look so good, and they're in their 40s.
When you're asking,
so you have a combination of plastic surgery, personal trainers, huge amounts of makeup, filters, everything else in between. Sometimes though, these actresses get snapshot. They get paparazzi takes a quick snap while they're not in their filtered, makeup-induced, Hollywood glam. And they don't look so great, do they? A lot of them don't look so great. You look at them and you're like, she just looks like a plain chick after all.
I'm sorry,
when all that glam is gone.
Haley. But from Haley's perspective, right, she already is in her mid-30s. And I think a lot of us kind of said we would peak attractively in our mid-30s. Or at least I think a couple of us.
Yeah.
You feel like you are more attractive than you were, right, with your glow up over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I personally think in my 30s will be my peak. I'm not saying in my 40s I'm going to be more attractive than now, but I would say in my 30s I'm going to peak.
Yeah, I mean, probably you're going to peak in your mid-20s like almost every other woman does.
Well,
there's a reason.
But I also think that it's quite hard.
There's a reason why the peak for women is in their 20s. It's, again, this is a referent to childbearing. It's a referent to fertility. Men would be biologically and necessarily hardwired to be attracted towards women who are fertile. The older women get, the less fertile they become. It's really, it's that simple. It's just basic math, right?
Can I ask you a question? Is that okay?
Sure.
When do you think men peak? And if so, do you think you've already peaked?
Well, women don't have the same problem with men.
Totally.
Well, me? Oh, yeah, I peaked years ago.
I'm a health science major.
I'm ugly and old, but I don't give a shit, right? It's not important to me. But the thing is that for men, when you're talking about a peak, women aren't tying things into fertility because men are always fertile. I mean, they're basically always fertile. They're having babies in their 90s. Women are not, okay?
No, but men have ED.
Hang on.
Sorry.
So it's not tied necessarily to fertility. Women can be attracted to men based around resources, protection, social status, and the hierarchy. These are things that men aren't generally attracted to women over, though. They don't care about what a woman's status is in the hierarchy. If you're a beautiful girl who works at Starbucks, you're just attractive to the millionaire as if you're a beautiful girl who works in Hollywood. It's not important where you stand in the hierarchical structure of things like it is from a woman's perspective with men.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So we're selecting for different things.
I mean, it makes sense, but also, I don't know. I guess it makes enough sense. I'll take that answer.
Yeah. We're just selecting for different things, right? It's like a woman in her 20s knows a man in his 40s can still impregnate her, and if he has tons of resources and he's reasonably attractive, that seems like a pretty good gambit for her, right? But for a man to get together with a woman in her 40s, chances of fertility they significantly decrease. Even by the time you get your early 30s, they begin to significantly decrease.
So this is going by men that obviously want children. They're not going to look at a woman that's 35 and find them that attractive
not
because...
for men who want children. That's incorrect. How men perceive attractive, what is attractive, is going to be tied to fertility because it's hardwired whether they want kids or not.
So that's going back to caveman times, their instinct.
Well, it's just going into human physiognomy.
So
it is true. What he's saying is true, unfortunately.
So from a men's,
Wait,
I'm just asking for clarification.
Wait, why is it unfortunate though?
I mean, I think that women should be looked at as more than just like an incubator for babies.
And
I know that it's hardwired. Like I said, I just completely understand
Well, they're
that
not
it
being
is.
looked at. No, that's an incorrect take anyway. Nobody's saying that women should be looked at as only incubators. We're just talking about attraction. So you can't be with a person you're not attracted. Well, I think men should be looked at as more than wallets, but some of you just want a billionaire, right? And that's more important than personality, apparently. So the men should be looked at as more than just wallets and your system of protection, right? And you say, I think that you do look at men as not just that, right? You don't just look at them as wallets, right? So why would I assume that because you found a man more attractive because he made more money, that means you only see him as that?
Okay. I feel like that kind of clarifies things. So you're saying it represents fertility, but they also need to be attracted to other things. This isn't just about fertility.
The reason they are attracted to them is because it makes sense for the survival of the species for men to be attracted, the most attracted to fertile women.
Sure.
You want men in the species to be fighting over the most fertile women. You want them to be warring and competing and doing all the that they need to do in order to get the most fertile women. Why? Because
natural
It sounds stressful, to be honest.
Their genetics, right? They're going to spread their genetics. The most fertile women are going to be younger, and so of course the attraction level is going to be the highest. There's from just a survival of the human race perspective, that's necessary, right? If all the men, in other words, let's say we switched it and all the men became only attracted to 60-year-old women. Right? They don't want nothing to do with young, fertile women anymore. They were only attracted to 60-year-olds. That would be a terrible survival strategy for our species, right? That would be like but the species would go extinct, right?
Totally.
So I'm just asking for clarification in terms of physical attributes of a woman, what makes them more attractive specifically. Does that make sense? From a guy, right? If you walk into a bar and you're looking and gazing across all of the women in the bar.
The characteristics of preferences may vary from man to man, right? For what they distinctly find attractive in individual women. Perhaps some like bigger eyes, some like smaller eyes, some like bigger breasts, some like smaller breasts. That can vary, but there's going to be some things which are universals. One thing that's going to be universal is that generally the younger the woman is, obviously within reason, women we're talking about here, the younger they are, generally, the more attractive they appear to the opposite sex, at least from the man's perspective.
So and this is just a theoretical, so if in 10 years I'm saying I peak because I don't have as much of a baby face, but I still have the same build, I'm still pretty tiny, I have a youthful looking body still, how will that distinguish?
Because if men can select, if the type of man you want is the type of man who can select for the younger version of you, he will, because he'll be instinctually more attracted to that. Now, this is not always the case, and it's not going to be the case with every man, but it'll be generally the case, and the stats seem to bear this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say generally, yeah. Obviously, it's not always going to be the case, but most part.
Nothing ever is, right?
Yeah,
I totally understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Okay. We have a chat here from Happy. Happy says, women see themselves as most attractive at 25 to 45 when they find men most appealing, while men prefer women 18 to 30. This fits evolution. Male ancestors bred at 25 to 45, females at 18 to 30. Women should note men view them differently. This also explains why they think men liking 18 to 24 is gross. It gives them the ick. Thank you, Happy, for the big $200 soup chat, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a matter of competition. So most of the time when I reduce down, when I'm arguing with women over age gaps, they get very, very upset. Many women do over 45-year-old men who are dating 20-year-old women. They call it predatory. They call it all sorts of different things. But when you reduce it down, they essentially just say, well, it just gives them the ick, right? Well, the thing is like they have to compete. Against the fact that 45-year-old men can get women who are in their, not that many, but at least the men that they would select for when they're in their 40s, who have kind of the high status and a lot of money, can oftentimes get younger women and are more attracted to them. And I think that makes women very jealous, makes them very upset. So they call them creeps and predators and this and that, but I think it's just socially shamed men into not being attracted to women who are between 18 and 30, even though in order for the human species to perpetuate itself, they kind of need to.
Yeah, it is interesting, Andrew. It seems like in terms of men's preferences, there's a lot of bullying and shaming. Like if a girl wants an older guy, it's a preference. Guy wants a younger woman, creepy, icky, predatory, manipulative, exploitative.
I think it's the motive behind it.
What do you mean the motive?
Like
what if
why they're seeking younger women?
Yeah, what if the motive is she's
because
just hot?
Because they want to have sex with them and have babies with them.
They want to have sex with a hot woman.
Like that's the motive. The motive, but think about it. It actually makes sense, right? The motivation of if men were attracted again to 60-year-olds, right? That would devastate all of humankind. There would not be a humanity left. So, of course, yes, 40, 45, 50-year-old men would love, if they're single, to have a 22, 23, 24-year-old woman. Of course. That completely makes sense to me. It's totally logical, totally within the confines of reason from my perspective. So the only thing I can think of is there must be some significant competition there that women who are in those age brackets, they kind of get upset of it. So they just say, well, they're predators and they're this and they're that. And it's like, well, they want to reproduce, right? They want to reproduce their genetics. That's like priority number one for a species.
And so, I don't know, when it comes to the preferences, it's like, okay, a girl doesn't want to date a short guy, preference. Guy doesn't want to date a fat woman. Oh, shallow, jerk, asshole, judgmental, body shaming. Girl wants a guy who's dominant, preference. Man wants a woman who's submissive, misogyny. Girl sets a boundary, empowering. Guy sets a boundary, controlling. Just kind of interesting whenever men have any sort of preferences when it comes to dating.
In fact, I'm going to take it further, Brian, and say I think that men probably have a duty. They probably actually have a duty to marry women when women are in their 20s for the purpose of starting a family. They're going to have the healthiest children, the most chance for them to be able to pass their genetics on. And ultimately, it's probably their best mating strategy, ultimately, to do this. So, I mean, for humanity to thrive, we need to have human beings. So I think I would say that there's actually a moral imperative maybe for men to select within that age bracket if they can.